Hey, it's me again, Greg. So soon after the Apple protest, hard to kind of believe how fast protests come one after the other. But hey, it's election season and big tech is really up to no good as far as I see, especially in the way they censor conservatives. And that's always been my message here. So today I have a special treat. Today I'm at Facebook. There they are. And what makes it a special treat is today's a triple protest. Kind of running out of gas money. So what I'm going to do today, in brief, I'm going to try to make it brief. I'm going to protest Facebook, Airbnb, and the state of California. I know that's kind of a lot to bite off, but that's certainly what I'm going to try to do. So let's just get started. Hopefully this will go fairly quickly. So a friend recently asked me if I expected any kind of backlash by coming out to protest big tech companies who censor conservative voices. And I pondered the question for a while, but I began to think of how most people have been stifled to give their opinions, especially on the right, for fear of losing their jobs or being shunned by their peer group. I would be negligent to myself and my community, I've felt, if I didn't speak out for those who feel they have to remain silent, yet have similar concerns about what is going on around them with big tech. That's why I'm out here at Facebook headquarters today to protest to protest Airbnb, Facebook, and California herself through short prepared statements. So let's look at the first that I prepared, which is Airbnb. So Airbnb I call the poster child of big tech going woke. And that's exactly what they are. And I'm actually an Airbnb host, sad to say. But I've been an Airbnb superhost since I opened up my home to guests around 2015. Airbnb is a San Francisco corporation that really epitomizes the woke culture. In the midst of the Black Lives Matter protests and riots, Airbnb hosts were sent an unusual email on June 30th. In the email, Airbnb was asking hosts to participate in a study that was to be used to develop a new software algorithm to identify when hosts were discriminating against booking certain types of guests. It's called Project Lighthouse. You might want to look that up. The underlying message was this: the algorithm was going to ultimately sort out and expose any racist hosts. Airbnb was working with two civil rights organizations to do this. One called The Color of Change and the other called Upturn. What criteria these organizations were using to define discriminatory behavior was not discussed in the email. Yet, with critical race theory at the forefront of the left's platform for social justice, a theory steeped in the principle that all whites are inherently racist, it was clear that hosting an Airbnb in the future would be fraught with potential liabilities to white hosts. So on August 19th, I emailed Airbnb to notify them that I would be shutting down my operations on November 1st and that they would have one less superhost suspect as being a possible racist. And that's what I have to say about Airbnb. I'm no longer going to be a superhost for them. I've had enough of feeling like I'm being scrutinized as a white person, and I've given up trying to fight against the company that really has a great business model, and we really enjoyed our guests and hosting them. And we weren't a super host for nothing. We made our guest stay special. We live in the Santa Cruz Mountains, beautiful place, and we're going to now deny that to guests, unfortunately, because of Airbnb and their policies. So the second, let's look at Facebook now. And Facebook is, I call it, AKA just another Democratic crony. So as Facebook continues to censor conservative thinkers almost as regularly as PG&E shutdowns in California, and as Project Veritas, which you may have heard, has, sorry, I have a few notes here. Project Veritas documented on video Facebook employees routinely discarding pro-Trump posts and talking about it. With all of that, Mark Zuckerberg recently went on the record to discuss how Facebook policies will be implemented during the election period. Okay? Whoa. During the election period. So in a telling statement, Zuckerberg mimics the talking point of Democrats regarding mail-in voting or mail-in balloting, which will dramatically change how Americans have voted in the past and which has been prone to fraud and other abuses at the state level. Different states have experimented with it. Different states have identified fraud, including the New York Times pointing it out. While even Dr. Fauci has declared it safe for the American voter to go to the polls, Democrats continue to insist and encourage mail-in voting, which will delay election results for weeks and suggest undemocratic forces at work behind the scenes as those votes are tallied. Zuckerberg acts as a Democrat hand puppet in his message to Facebook users in a recent statement. And let me get to that recent statement, and I'll read that to you. And you can look at this while I'm reading this to you. Quote, "One of the main things that I think we and other media need to start doing is preparing the American people that there is nothing illegitimate about this election taking additional days or even weeks to make sure that all the votes are counted. In fact, that might be important to make sure that this is a legitimate and fair election. So we're going to do a bunch of different messaging around that just to make sure that people know that that's normal." Normal? That's not normal. That's something we've never done before as a nation. So you're already setting us up for something that you're calling normal, the Democrats call normal, not prone to fraud in the least, with a divided country. With approval by Dr. Fauci that it's safe to go to the polls. So no conservative trusts mail-in ballots and view it as a ploy by Democrats to manipulate the vote. Zuckerberg is 100% on board with mail-in voting at a time of division in this country, and even he knows that going to the polls is no less safe than walking into a Home Depot in California on a Saturday morning. Adding an entirely new national-level voting scheme is the worst mistake this country can be making when trust is in such short supply. So that's what I have to say about Facebook. And this is the new poster for Facebook. You might not find it on its website, but on the top it says conservative censorship, which they're known for. Now they're going to be known for election tampering, working in conjunction with the Democrats to block any claims of victory by Trump, while the Democrats work behind the scenes, playing with the mail-in votes. That's going to work out well, I think. So obviously the comparison is a totalitarian regime that's trying to seize power, unfair elections, fraudulent elections, and this guy's behind it all. I forgot what his name is. I think it starts with a Z. I think he's a multi-billionaire, and I think he believes he's got too much power in the world. And he better hope that Republicans don't win by a landslide, or we're going to rip Facebook apart. It'll happen. Because Facebook cheats. Facebook's a platform, and Facebook is under Section 230 guidelines. Section 230 Communication Decency Act. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Okay, so I have a guard telling me I'm not allowed to do this because he doesn't believe in free speech, apparently. I asked for 10 minutes. They won't give me 10 minutes to stand here. And look at where the street is. Okay, the street is like a couple of feet away. I'm trying to lean my sign up here. And unfortunately, we have more censorship of speech. But maybe he's going to let me have 10 more minutes. So he says, yeah, he's going to give me those 10 minutes. Because I don't know what he's going to do. Beat me up? Okay, you seem like a good guy. But you gave me the warning, okay? Okay, so the last thing I want to say is my protest for California. And this is my message to Silicon Valley liberal elites. Okay? So, as you can see, it's kind of hard to protest. I got people pushing me around. I got a bunch of guards here. Watch. See all those guys coming after me? They want to do something to me. It's called free speech at Facebook. Okay, so I'll finish with the California protest. I'm going to close with a statement to the Silicon Valley elite that I expressed through a recent reply I made to a Los Altos Facebook group post. Let me put my sunglasses on, it's a little bright out here. That expressed concern about a proposal to build a 6-story affordable housing complex in downtown Los Altos and the negative reaction of the idea from its residents. Okay? Although it's aimed at Los Altos residents, this could have been Saratoga, Menlo Park, Stanford, Palo Alto, Atherton, Woodside, San Mateo, and many other affluent cities in Silicon Valley. And by the way, I was recently canceled by the group today, in fact. And the group is called, I believe it's called something like You're From Los Altos When. These are Los Altos residents who joined the group and kind of look back nostalgically of how the city used to be. And they didn't particularly like the idea of a 6-story affordable housing unit on Main Street, Los Altos. And because, they have their tight-knit community of very wealthy people. So here goes. This letter got me canceled from their group on Facebook. And I'm going to read it to you now. And that'll close my protest. So I say, now, Los Altos residents, you're not going to like what I have to say, but I think it's your turn to take on some of the brunt of what other cities have taken on for years. Your days of having homeless tents on Main Street and human feces on the walls of your picturesque storefronts are approaching. You cannot expect to live forever in your cocoons of privilege and still get away with voting Democrat year in and year out. Eventually, even the affluence bubble that you have enveloped yourselves in is bound to pop. You cannot simultaneously be a social justice warrior while at the same time expect that those who you are claiming to defend to not eventually expect their fair share from you. No, the middle class has been sucked dry by the liberal policies, which is why they are leaving California in droves. So for the machine to keep functioning, it's now coming for the Silicon Valley elites. That means most of you. You know those among you who support the open borders, sanctuary city, and sanctuary state crowd. The people who seem to think that they know more than the rest of us and who force their crappy ideas onto us, knowing that their wealth provides them with a convenient escape plan when all hell breaks loose. Should I go on? The people who sit in the $4 million homes bitching about Donald Trump as they yell at the help for showing up 10 minutes late to clean their toilets. The people who, based on the size of their bank accounts, assume everyone with less is unworthy, uneducated, and can be shoved aside when they have exhausted their usefulness. The people who feel that they can censor conservatives on social media because they all must be racist and haters, and free speech can't be permitted in their cases. The people who feel it's their role in life to virtue signal to the losers below them, the people they claim to want to help, but who would be the last people they would ever invite into their own homes. You know who you are, You're empty and shallow. You're dishonest to your own selves. I know who you are because I live next to you. I spent nearly my entire life in Los Altos Hills and had to get out once the likes of the fascists of Google took over the town. So I moved to Santa Cruz, which is just like a mini San Francisco, full of petty crime, homeless tents, garbage and discarded needles, roads in disrepair. You know, the 180-degree opposite of what Los Altos is, or used to be. But hey, at least it's real. Neighbors actually speak to each other. People don't judge each other based on the size of their house or the car they drive. And now, it's your turn. You thought you were immune to the decay that has been bestowed onto California by the leaders you have voted into office. But it's coming to your town now, because you think liberals have all the answers. Ha! The joke's on you. Just ask your buddy Elon Musk. Elon smelled a rotting carcass in the air, so he's hightailing it out of California. You see, life in a Democrat-controlled state and Democrat-controlled cities finally got just a little too close to even a multi-billionaire. His money was powerless to keep his Fremont factory open during the COVID pandemic, so he bailed out before it was too late. Interestingly enough, the California Radical Assembly, being the super smart people they are, saw the writing on the wall too, and proposed recently what many of you are likely well familiar with, given that you can afford your own tax attorneys. You know, that post-taxed wealth that you worked so hard, letting the market work so hard for you. The wealth tax is simply a big red flag for the rich people, and it's only the beginning. Toro, Toro. I know, you're already 4 or 5 steps ahead of me, but you get the idea. The state of California, the protector of the downtrodden, the illegal immigrant sanctuary that can somehow afford to offer free education, free health care, free police and emergency services, free COVID stimulus money, and with open borders policy, continue to budget for theoretically an infinite number of new border jumpers without seeing any of these services to its own citizens degraded in the least. Well, they're running out of money. And with the middle class either being taxed out of existence already or packing their cars to caravan out of the state, a la Grapes of Wrath, it seems that the only natural thing to do for the state to keep it all going is to go after the creators themselves of this beautiful liberal mecca, and that's you. So, to make a long story short, 6-story affordable housing projects are only just the beginning. We already have a bunch of them in Santa Cruz. That's just step 1. Panhandling will come next, then defecating on your sidewalks, needles in your gutters, break-ins of your beautiful Teslas, petty theft of your kids' bikes in your driveway, and home invasions. It's all coming to you. All I can do is sit back, watch, and tell you that I told you so. But since I'm not part of the Silicon Valley class, that is, I'm a non-Democrat, you can all go back to reading your New York Times, calling anyone who disagrees with the BLM movement a white supremacist, and thinking how smart you are because you made so much money on Trump's fiscal and trade policies. Well, I guess I have to go back to work now. Some of us actually live paycheck to paycheck, if you can fathom that. California makes sure it's that way. That's the end of my protest. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. Bye.